It is my pleasure to present progress of Slovakia toward fulfilling our economy-wide reduction target. I also want to thank parties who submitted questions to Slovakia within the preparatory phase of the multilateral assessment process. First, let me shortly introduce our country. Slovak Republic is quite a young country, situated in the middle of the Europe, in Central Europe, and it's part of the European Union, and it's surrounded by the member states of the European Union. You can see it on the map. The light green color are member states of European Union. Dark green color is Slovakia. Population is 5.5 million inhabitants. Capital city is Bratislava. On this slide, you can see trend of GHG emissions since 1990, and we achieved substantial emission reduction since this year. And the last inventory report 2021, it stated that we decreased our emissions by 44% compared to 1990 level, and it's without LULUCF. On this slide, you can see that since this reduction effort started, we were able to decouple our GDP growth from emission development, i.e. we achieved GDP growth and at the same time emission reduction, so you can see it very well on this graph, where it's also noted carbon intensity of the economy. On this graph, you can see total GHG emissions since 1990, including per capita GHG emission development. The big dip in 2020 is due to COVID. Otherwise, decrease since 1990 is substantial, and last decade is lower because the low-hanging fruit were mostly used up at the beginning, and that is transformation of economy, switch from coal to other means and fuels, and energy efficiency measures in industry, in households, public buildings, where it was the cheapest and easiest to achieve. On this slide, you can see GHG emissions by sectors. The biggest sector is energy sector, combustion of the fuels, and also substantial sector is IPPU. It is due to the fact that Slovakia is a very industrialized country with heavy industry, manufacturing industry, chemical industry. Transport sector in red slice is the one which is growing since 1990. Otherwise, most of the sectors have decreased since from 1990. On these slides, you can see our international targets, Kyoto Protocol targets, Paris Agreement targets. It's important for you to know that as part of the European Union, our targets are identical. The targets what we submitted internationally are identical to targets what European Union submitted as a whole. When you go into detail of our main targets, and when you look at our sectoral targets, you will see the situation is more complicated. We, for example, our emission, we can split into two big sectors. One sector covers industry and big installations, and other sectors covers so-called non-ETS sectors or effort sharing regulation. It's on the left side of the slide. It covers all the small installations, buildings, waste, agriculture, and here we have a binding target minus 22.7%. Then we have also energy targets like energy efficiency and renewable energy targets. You can see it on the slide. And what I mentioned, ETS or sector sectors with big installations, we have also a target which is minus 62%. All these targets, or most of these targets, are compared to 2005. This is the year which follows the year we entered the European Union. And we have a common methodology for measurements. On this slide, you can see a division between these two main sectors. So sectors which cover big installations and sectors which cover small installations, building and so on, or transport. And red line, which is 2030 minus 55% target. So you can see that there is still, we have to do some effort to reach this target in 2030. Here are our emission projections until 2050. We are working on a revision of these projections, which will be in line with climate neutrality in 2050. Since we have not finished, these are the projections we used previously and which are still not in line with climate neutrality. This is why we will not achieve overall reduction in line with climate neutrality. And you can see all the projections, business as usual or with additional measures, including and excluding LULUCF. Here you can see it in policies and measures and projections in energy sector, which is the biggest contributor to GHG emissions. And the situation here is that we substantially reduce emissions in this sector. Yellow line is 1990 level, and blue and green lines are projections based from the real situation in 2021. And you can see we are substantially on the 2005 level as well in the energy sector. On these slides you can read some of the main policies and measures we use in energy sector, but since I will save the time so you can read them in the presentation you can find online. In transport sector the situation is very different from the one in energy sector, because yellow line, as you can see, because emissions are growing in transport sector, and yellow line show the 1990 level which we are above, and you can see the peaking of transport emissions will be before 2030. With reduction under 1990 level, we will only achieve after 2030. Transport sector is the biggest sector which has grown since 1990, and it's very expensive to mitigate. Therefore, we have such a big problems to reduce emissions. Here are some of on this slide and this slide are some of the measures we can apply or we will apply in transport. You can read them in presentation later. The last sector I will look at in detail is agricultural sector, where we achieved big emission reduction at after transformation from centrally planned economy in 1990 into a market economy. And since then, our emissions are more or less flat in the agricultural sector, and also the projections, whether it's business as usual or with additional measures, doesn't diverge from each other so much. And these are in line with the projections overall, what we have described before. This slide shows some of the measures we are using in either of the projections or scenarios, and you can look at them in detail in our presentation you find online. So thank you very much for your attention, and if you have some questions, my colleagues are ready. Thank you.